This report will tackle the three postmodern approaches of group counseling. Postmodernism is based on the premise that there is no single truth. Postmodern perspectives are marked by acceptance of plurality and the notion that individuals create their own reality. The basic premise is that people are resourceful, competent, healthy, resilient, and have the capacity to discover solutions that can change the direction of their lives. Individuals are the experts on their own lives. The postmodern approaches have in common the basic assumption that we generate stories to make sense of ourselves and our world. Let us start with the first approach, the solution-focused brief therapy, or SFBT. A central concept of a solution-focused brief therapy, or SFBT group, includes a movement from talking about problems to talking about and creating solutions. There are exceptions to every problem, and by talking about these exceptions, group participants are able to conquer what seem to be major problems in a brief period of time. The solution-focused model emphasizes the role of participants establishing their own goals and preferences. Much of what the group process is about involves members thinking about their future and what they want to be different in their lives. Leaders concentrate on clear, specific, observable, small, realistic, achievable changes that may lead to additional positive outcomes. Because success tends to build upon itself, modest goals are viewed as the beginning of change. SFBT is a collaborative venture. The group therapist strives to carry out therapy with an individual rather than doing therapy on an individual. Instead of aiming to make change happen, the leader attempts to create an atmosphere of understanding and acceptance that allows individuals to tap their resources for making constructive changes. Group leaders do not assume that they know more about the lives of clients than they do. Group members are the primary interpreters of their own experiences. Together, the group members and the leader establish clear, specific, realistic, and personally meaningful goals that will guide the process for each group. This spirit of collaboration opens up a range of possibilities for present and future change. SFBT casts the role and functions of a group counselor in quite a different light from traditionally oriented mental health practitioners who view themselves as experts in assessment, diagnosis, and treatment. Empathy and the collaborative partnership in the therapeutic process are seen as more important than assessment or technique. Solution-focused group counselors tend to avoid using language that embodies diagnosis, assessment, and intervention. Instead, they believe that the way problems and solutions are talked about makes a difference. Using language can assume major importance in how problems are conceptualized. The concepts of care, interest, respectful curiosity, openness, empathy, contact, and even fascination are seen as relational necessities. Group leaders create a climate of mutual respect, dialogue, inquiry, and affirmation in which the members are free to create and co-author their evolving stories. Because solution-focused counseling is designed to be brief, the leader has the task of keeping group members on a solution track rather than a problem track. If members concentrate on talking about their problems, it is difficult for them to move in a positive direction. Solution-focused therapists use a range of techniques including pre-therapy change, exception questions, the miracle question, scaling questions, homework, and summary feedback. Techniques focus on the future and how best to solve problems rather than on understanding the cause of problems. The first technique is pre-therapy change. Solution-focused brief therapists often ask clients at the first session, "What have you done since you called for an appointment that has made a difference in your problem?" Asking about pre-therapy change tends to encourage clients to rely less on the therapist and more on their own resources to reach their goals. The second technique is questioning. It is a main intervention. Solution-focused group leaders use questions as a way to better understand a group member's experience rather than simply to gather information. Group leaders do not raise questions to which they think they know the answer. Questions are asked from a position of respect, genuine curiosity, sincere interest, and openness. Asking questions enables members to describe things on their own words. Instead of presenting members with a barrage of closed interrogation-style questions, open-ended questions can enhance solutions by providing space for members to be heard and to reflect on future possibilities. Another technique is the exception questions. This directs group members to those times in their lives when their problems did not exist. Exploring exceptions offers group members opportunities for discovering resources, engaging strengths, and creating possible solutions. Solution-focused group counselors listen attentively for signs of previous solutions, exceptions, and goals. Once an exception is discovered, the leader can explore exception-related conditions and encourage a member to replicate these conditions. The intent of this solution-focused intervention is to guide the client in a self-chosen direction based on what has worked previously. The client can be asked what has to happen for these exceptions to his problems to occur more often. Another technique is the miracle question. It allows members of a group to describe life without the problem. Group members are then encouraged to enact what would be different in spite of perceived problems. This question involves a future focus that encourages group members to consider a different kind of life than one dominated by a particular problem. The miracle question focuses clients on searching for solutions and recognizing small improvements toward their goals. Another technique is scaling questions. This requires group members to specify improvement on a particular dimension on a scale of 0 to 10. This technique enables clients to see progress being made in specific steps and degrees. Solution-focused therapists use scaling questions when changes in human experiences are not easily observed, such as feelings, moods, or communication. For example, a group member reporting feelings of anxiety in social situations might be asked, on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being how you felt when you first came to this group, and 10 being how you feel the day after your miracle occurs and your problem is gone, how would you rate your anxiety right now? Even if the group member has only moved away from 0 to 1, she has improved. How did she do that? What does she need to do to move another number up the scale? Scaling questions enable clients to pay closer attention to what they are doing and how they can take steps that will lead to the changes they desire. The last technique is summary feedback. Therapists may provide summary feedback in the form of genuine affirmations or pointing out particular strengths that clients have demonstrated. Solution-focused practitioners typically allow time in each group session for sharing feedback with one another. These questions provide encouragement for members to search within themselves for the credit they deserve for making changes. This kind of questioning and feedback assists members in carrying their learning outside of the group sessions into daily living. Solution-focused brief therapists learn from their clients about their experiential world rather than approaching clients with a preconceived notion about their world view. Instead of aiming to make change happen, the SFBT practitioner attempts to create an atmosphere of understanding and acceptance that allows a diverse range of individuals to utilize their resources for making constructive changes. Murphy claims that the emphasis on strengths and resources in solution-focused counseling supports culturally competent service to individuals regardless of ethnicity and cultural background. Some specific aspects of solution-focused counseling that lend themselves to culturally competent practice include A. Treating each client as a unique individual. B. Collaborating on the goals of counseling. C. Tailoring services to each client. And D. Obtaining ongoing feedback from clients on the usefulness of interventions and adjusting them accordingly. The second approach is the narrative therapy. Narrative therapy is based partly on examining the stories that people tell and understanding the meaning of their stories. Each of these stories is true for the individual who is telling the story. There is no absolute reality. Some key concepts of narrative therapy include a discussion of how a problem has been disrupting, dominating, or discouraging the person. The therapist attempts to separate clients from their problems so that they do not adopt a fixed view of their identity. Group members are invited to view their stories from different perspectives and eventually to co-create an alternative life story. They are asked to find evidence to support a new view of themselves as being competent enough to escape the dominance of a problem and are encouraged to consider what kind of future they could expect if they were competent. Narrative therapists invite group members to describe their experience in fresh language, which tends to open new vistas of what is possible. The heart of the therapeutic process from the perspective of narrative therapy involves identifying how societal standards and expectations are internalized by people in ways that constrain and narrow the kind of life they are capable of living. Narrative therapists collaborate with the members of their groups to help them experience a heightened sense of personal agency to act in the world. Narrative therapists do not assume that they have special knowledge about the lives of clients. The members of a group are the primary interpreters of their own experiences. In the narrative approach, the therapist seeks to understand the lived experience of each of the group participants. Through a systematic process of careful listening, coupled with curious, persistent, and respectful questioning, the group leader works collaboratively with members to explore the impact of the problem and what they are doing to reduce its effects. Members then work with the therapist to co-construct enlivening alternative stories. Narrative therapy emphasizes the quality of the therapeutic relationship and the creative use of techniques within this relationship. Narrative therapy's most distinctive feature is captured by the statement, "The person is not the problem, but the problem is the problem." Narrative therapists engage clients in externalizing conversations that are aimed at separating the problem from the person's identity. Members learn that they are not cemented to their problem-saturated stories and can develop alternative and more constructive stories. Narrative therapists use questions as a way to generate experience rather than to gather information. The aim of questioning is to progressively discover or construct the client's experience so that the client has a sense of a preferred direction. Therapists ask questions from a not knowing position, meaning that they do not pose questions that they think they already know the answers to. Through the process of asking questions, therapists provide clients with an opportunity to explore various dimensions of their life situations. Narrative therapists operate on the premise that problems are identified within social, cultural, political, and relational contexts rather than existing within individuals, which makes this approach especially relevant for counseling culturally diverse clients. Narrative practitioners are concerned with considering the specifications of gender, ethnicity, race, disability, sexual orientation, social class, and spirituality and religion as therapeutic issues. The socio-political conceptualization of problems offers understanding of cultural notions and practices that produce dominant and oppressive narratives. Practitioners deconstruct or take apart the cultural assumptions that are a part of a client's problem situation. As a part of the group experience, members come to understand how oppressive social practices affect them, which allows for the possibility of creating alternative stories. The last approach is the feminist therapy. Feminist therapy focuses on issues of diversity, the complexity of sexism, and the centrality of social context in understanding gender issues. A key concept of feminist therapy is the notion that societal gender role messages influence how individuals view themselves and behave. Throughout therapy, the impacts of these socialization patterns are identified so that clients can critically evaluate and modify early messages pertaining to appropriate gender role behavior. The practice of contemporary feminist therapy is based on the assumption that gender cannot be considered apart from other identity areas such as race, ethnicity, class, and sexual orientation. A key concept pertaining to understanding symptoms is that problematic symptoms can be viewed as coping or survival strategies rather than as evidence of pathology. Although individuals are not to blame for personal problems largely caused by dysfunctional social environments, they are responsible for working toward change. The major goal of feminist therapy is empowerment. Members of a group strive for a sense of self-acceptance, self-confidence, self-esteem, joy, and self-actualization. Other therapy goals include enhancing the quality of interpersonal relationships, assisting both women and men to make decisions regarding role performances, and helping group members to come to an understanding of the cultural, social, and political systems' influence on their current situation. Emphasis is on balancing independence and interdependence, social change, and valuing and affirming diversity. Feminist therapists do not see the therapeutic relationship alone as being sufficient to produce change. Insight, introspection, and self-awareness are springboards to action. Both individual change and social transformation are basic goals of therapy. At the individual level, therapists work to help women and men recognize, claim, and embrace their personal power. As a consciously political enterprise, another goal is social transformation. Feminist therapists work in an egalitarian manner and use empowerment strategies that are tailored to each client. They aim to empower clients to live according to their own values and to rely on an internal rather than external or societal locus of control in determining what is right for them. Group leaders with a feminist orientation are concerned about power relations in the world in general. The group leader and members take active and equal roles, working together to determine goals that members will pursue in a group. The group practitioner works to demystify the therapeutic process and to include each member as an active partner in the treatment process. Collaboration with the members of the group leads to a genuine partnership with the members. Feminist therapists share common ground with Adlerian therapists in their emphasis on social equality and social interest. Also in line with the Adlerians, feminist therapists believe the therapeutic relationship should be a non-hierarchical, person-to-person relationship. Like person-centered therapists, feminist therapists convey their genuineness and strive for mutual empathy between client and therapist. Common denominator of both feminist and other postmodern approaches is the assumption that each member is an expert on his or her own life. Feminist therapy does not prescribe any particular set of interventions. Rather, feminist group therapists tailor interventions to members' strengths. Feminist practitioners have borrowed techniques from traditional approaches, including the use of therapeutic contracts, homework, bibliotherapy, therapist self-disclosure, empowerment, role-playing, cognitive restructuring, reframing, relabeling, and assertiveness training. The first technique here is the gender role analysis. It explores the impact of gender role expectations on the individual's psychological well-being and draws upon this information to make decisions about modifying gender role behaviors. The next technique is power analysis, which refers to methods aimed at helping individuals understand how unequal access to power and resources can influence personal realities. Together, the group leader and members explore how inequities or institutional barriers often limit self-definition and well-being. The final technique is social action. This is a defining feature of feminist therapy. As clients become more grounded in their understanding of feminism, therapists may suggest that clients become involved in activities such as volunteering at a community mental health center, lobbying lawmakers, or providing community education about gender issues. Participating in such activities can empower clients and help them see the link between their personal experiences and the social-political context in which they live. Feminist therapy and multicultural perspectives have a great deal in common. The feminist perspective on power in relationships has application for understanding power inequities due to racial and cultural factors. The personal is political principle can be applied both to counseling women and counseling culturally diverse client groups. Neither feminist therapy nor multicultural perspectives focus exclusively on individual change. Instead, both approaches emphasize direct action for social change as a part of the role of therapists. Many of the social action and political strategies that call attention to oppressed groups have equal relevance for women and for other marginalized groups. Both feminist therapists and multicultural therapists have worked to establish policies that lessen the opportunities for discrimination of all types: gender, race, culture, sexual orientation, ability, religion, and age. Once again, this is Richie Byron for my report on postmodern approaches for group counseling. Thank you for listening.